Yeah, good morning. In Hamburg, my name is Steffen Kruse, as I told at the beginning of the session. I'm the head of the application specialist in Central Europe, in the Central Europe region. So I want to welcome you to the workshop today, and I conduct a comprehensive product training with you online for the MEDUVENT in the software version 2.1. If you have any further question, please write it in the Q&A, so I can answer at the end of the session. So I will show you the presentation. Super. So we start with the product training, MEDUVENT standard ventilation wherever you go. We have the training introduction with the option SIMV, SIPPV, CPAP, NPS, and PRVC plus PS. The MEDUVENT standard is an emergency and transport ventilator for invasive and non-invasive ventilation. The main numbers you have to know is that the ventilator can ventilate patients above 7 kilograms of body weight, and the tidal volume is volume controlled over 50 milliliter, which are possible. So also the MEDUVENT standard is flexible for doing the non-invasive ventilation and to ventilate during the CPR. Also suitable to anesthetized patients. So when the patient will get to a TIVA, you can use the ventilator although. When we look at the MEDUVENT standard, at the front we have the display right in the middle. We have the alarm light on the above screen. We have the display of power supply and battery status, and we have the oxygen inlet on the front side. Here you can see the numbers Samir told you. So lower than 15 liter per minute and 0.3 to 6 bar of pressure can be put into the oxygen inlet. We have the connection for measuring circuit for the patient host system. We have the accessory connection above it, and we have the ventilation hose connection on the bottom. In the middle of the MEDUVENT, we have the navigation knob. So every movement in the software will mainly put with the navigation knob. So we have the alarm mute button. When you press this button, you have 120 seconds of muted alarms. Only technical alarms will be get out. Then we have the menu button where you answer the user menu, and we have the on-off button where you can start and stop the device. On the back side, we have on the side the hygiene filter in front of the turbine, so every ventilation air will get filtered. We have the power supply on the back. When the MEDUVENT standard is mentioned on a plate, the power supply will also be fixed. We have the battery compartment cover. So the MEDUVENT standard has no changeable battery for users. You can change the battery, but only here on the back you have these grips where you open the compartment cover and can change the battery behind it. Security seal on the back, and we have on the bottom, as we know from MEDUVENT standard 2, for example, the SD card slot. When you look on the start screen of the MEDUVENT standard, we have the battery status on the right-hand side. When you look on the device, we have the time, the alarm clock in the middle. When you put the mute button, the alarm clock will be crossed. We have the sign that you do the operation with 100% or 93% of oxygen. So 93% of oxygen will be with some concentrators. We have the active ventilation mode on the left-hand side. In the middle, we have the 3 emergency ventilation. When you entered one of these ventilation modes, the device starts an IPPV ventilation with some fixed parameters at the start. We have a new new patient you can start, and we have the function check on the above. When we look at the ventilation screen, here, for example, the IPPV screen, we have also the battery status time, the alarm mute. Here you can see the cross of the alarm bell. You have the operation with 193% oxygen, the ventilation mode, and we have some measurements. We have the oxygen concentration. All the measurements are with a blue background. We have the measured inspiratory minute volume, and new with the new software, the measured respiratory rate of patient. We have in the front the rate altogether, and in here we have the spontaneous respiratory frequency of the patient. You can took these 6 plates here down there. You can have the parameters which you can change. As example for IPPV, we have the PEEP, we have the ventilation rate, the tidal volume, and the maximum ventilation pressure you can set. On the left-hand side, we have the maximum volume indicator, where you can have this black spot here. We have the alarm function on the above, and we have this bar graph here, where you have the maximum ventilation pressure as a red line visualized. Must be paid by the customer. We have the SMV mode, the SIPPV mode, and new the CPAP plus PS and the PRVC plus PS mode, which the customer must choose which mode fits his needs. The next thing the customer has to choose is, did they use a reusable breathing circuit, or did they use a disposable breathing circuit? That's important because we have one thing that is very important when you have both systems. At the disposable breathing circuit, we have this circuit adapter here, number 9, which has to be mounted on the MEDUVENT before the customer can change the breathing circuit from reusable to disposable. So as you see here at the reusable breathing circuit, we have a fixed adapter right here, where the hoses get into, and at the disposable breathing circuit, we have hoses which are free, so they will be put in this disposable breathing circuit adapter, which is fixed mounted on the MEDUVENT standard. The third thing the customer has to choose which transport unit they want. We have the LifePath 3 NG. That's our unit for carrying also the oxygen bottle. We have the LifePath 1 NG. These both can be also mounted with the MEDUCORE standard 2, but also can be mounted only with the MEDUVENT standard. And then we have the LifePath 1 NG XS and the LifePath Lite XS. These are possibilities only for MEDUVENT standard. They are very small, very lightweight. So that's what the customer has to choose on the portable unit side. When you go to preparation and operation of the MEDUVENT standard, the first thing the customer has to check is if the hygiene filter is ready to use. Ready to use means that the filter has to be changed or replaced every 6 months in the device, or 24 hours of ventilation. The consumption can be read in the device during the function check I will show you on some screens later. When you want to change this hygiene filter, you put these both things together, put it out of the device, take a new one, press it in the device, and you have to hear a click voice that the filter is being mounted right in the device. The next thing we have to do is to put on the breathing circuit. Here's the difference between the reusable and the disposable breathing circuit. So the reusable breathing circuit has to be fixed directly on the MEDUVENT standard, and the disposable has these two hoses which be fixed on this adapter which mounted on the MEDUVENT standard. Third thing, connection of the oxygen supply. We have the oxygen inlet here on the pressure user or on the concentrator or on the flow meter, as Samir told. And the second end of the tube has to be mentioned at the MEDUVENT standard on the oxygen inlet. When you put on the device, we have these three emergency ventilation modes. As I told you, we have the new patient mode. As Samir showed you, the best way to take a new patient on the device is to go over the new patient, because you can tell the MEDUVENT standard the height and the gender of the patient, and the MEDUVENT calculates the right volume for this patient. At the bottom, we have the function check. So the function check can be used after the start of the device. The new user menu in the MEDUVENT standard, as the MEDUVENT standard with the software 1.x has not really a user menu. With the 2.1, we have this user menu. So we have these points in the user menu. We have the emergency mode. You can change immediately into the emergency ventilation mode. We have the alarm limits, which can be set. We have the change in different ventilation modes, like from IPPV to SIMV or something like that. We have all ventilation parameters on one screen that can be changed. And at the bottom, we have the device settings, where you can set the date, time, brightness of the screen, and the supplies of gases from 100 to 39% when you have changed from pressure bottle to concentrator. When we want to change parameters on the MEDUVENT standard, we have these plates here. We have these possibilities to activate. When you press the navigation button, these parameter will be getting highlighted, and you can change it with a navigation knob, and press the navigation knob to check the changes. When you set the oxygen concentration, we have the same minute volume of inspiration. Oxygen has to be set on the oxygen source when you want to have 100% of oxygen in the patient. You can have, or you can see these measurements right here at the first parameter. In the first 30 seconds of the ventilation, it's a calculated preview, and after 30 seconds, the MEDUVENT standard changed into the measurements. So there we have enough information to give the user this information of the O2I. When you're performing ventilation in manual mode, you have another kind of using the oxygen inlet, because we don't know which frequency the customer use. We give them information which flow he has to put on the oxygen source, that the MEDUVENT standards make 100% ventilation with each hoop of these volume. So for example, we have here 420 milliliter of volume, and you have to put 5 liter per minute on the oxygen source, so the patient gets 100% concentration with each breathing hoop. To perform the manual ventilation, we have the MEDU trigger. So we can press the mask with 2 hands on the face of the patient and use your thumb to activate one hoop, which MEDUVENT will deliver. Which modes you can use for the MEDUVENT standard? We have the IPPV, the emergency mode, intermittent positive pressure ventilation, which is mandatory volume controlled ventilation. We have a fixed volume, we have a fixed frequency. You can take a PEEP, and the ITE is fixed to 1 to 1.7. The CPAP without pressure support, so the normal CPAP, you only have to set the PEEP at the device. And as an option, we have the CPAP plus pressure support. Yeah, you can set the delta PPS, so the PS, the pressure support, is above the PEEP level. We have the inspiration trigger on 3 levels, 1, 2, and 3. 1 is the lowest, and 3 is the highest. 1 is the highest sensitivity, and 3 is the lowest sensitivity. And you have the Pmax as a security level. As IMV, as a synchronized intermittent mandatory ventilation, also an option for the MEDUVENT standard. The same parameters as IPPV, only you have to the inspiration trigger as a new parameter here. As IPPV, it's the same, but the window for the next hub that the patient wants to get is 100% of the expiratory time, so the patient can get the frequency higher with this mode. PRVZ plus PS, where there you can put on a volume, but the device, the MEDUVENT standard, will deliver this volume as a pressure-controlled ventilation. So the device looks which pressure he has to use to deliver 450 milliliter of volume in this patient. And the patient can get some delta PPS to support his spontaneous ventilation. Last but not least, the manual mode. So for CPR or for RSI, you can use the manual mode to breathe the patient manually. You can, the basis is that the CPR mode is in 32.2. So the pressure limit is the maximum which the device will deliver even for the mask ventilation. When we go to the function check, you have to use the function check before or after each use, after each hygienic reprocessing, normally after each repair, and when you're using the reusable breathing circuit, at least every 6 months, so that the circuit is also checked. It's very important that the steps must be carried out as instructed by the device. So when you want to check the oxygen flow check, you have to open the oxygen source when the MEDUVENT standard told you to do it, not on the beginning, even when the device told you to do it. Maintenance, we have a maintenance every 4 years with this device. Normally we have in the ventilation 2 years of maintenance. With the MEDUVENT standard we have 4 years. We have this rechargeable battery. This is maintenance free, but when the device is not on a power source, the battery has to be charged every 6 months. And after 5 years, the battery has to be replaced to a new one. This will be the product training of the user. So although the MEDUVENT standard has an operator menu, that's important for you as a dealer. We, when we want to go in the operator menu, we start the device on the start screen and put on the start screen the menu button, and then the device wants an access code. The code for the device when it comes out of our factory are 4 times S0. So when you are in the operator menu, you have a structure what you can change for the customer. We have the device settings. In the device settings, you can choose a different unit of length and unit of pressure. You can set date and time, the start volume, the start brightness, how even the filter wear, if it's 100% to 200%, you can reset the filter counter when the user has to change the filter, he has to put in a different code. And in this operator menu, you can change the filter code so that the user can reset that code. Which gas supply is the main gas supply? The user can change it, as you saw in the user menu, from 100% to 93%. Here in the operator menu, you can set the main gas supply. So when you have a device which is mostly used within concentrator, you can change here to 93%. Device check reminder. So we have a check every 2 years. It's needable in Germany, for example. When you have not this structure, you can deactivate this so the user didn't get a reminder to check this device. You can one time suppress maintenance reminder, and you can change the language in this operator menu structure. The second point is patient presets. We have the 3 patient groups, infant, child, adult. And in these groups, you can set for each group a volume and frequency, a PEEP, a PMAX, and a PMAX from the manual mode. So when the device starts with the emergency mode, these parameters will be set. You can change the height of the device, or the height calculating of the device, how many milliliter per kilogram body weight the device used to calculate the volume. And you can change a PEEP warning. A PEEP warning is optical warning of the device. For example, when we set the PEEP warning on 11 millibar, and the user set up the PEEP over 10 millibar, the color of the plate changed to red. He can set a higher PEEP, but it's an optical warning that it's too high. You can change the access code of the device. You can activate or deactivate the options, and you can enable new options when the user or the customer gets a new code. For example, CPAP plus PS, you can enable this option to enter this code on this point. You can import and export data logs. So export log files means that you put the log files of the device onto the SD card. You can export the configuration you set on this operator menu structure. And when you get to another device, so the customer has, for example, 5 devices, you put the main configuration on one device, export it on the SD card, get to the other 4 devices and import this configuration. All devices will be the same. You can make a software update. That's very important that the software, the update software, is on the highest level of the SD card. So don't hide it somewhere. It has to be on the highest level of the SD card. And then some information points here in the operator menu, the device information and the battery information. There are some serial numbers of the components of the MEDUVENT standard. So this will be the operator menu, and this will be the end of the product training. So let me take a look if we have some new questions here. Are you going to explain about the service manual? No, that's something for the service training. So that's not my part here. Would you explain about how to disinfect the device? Yeah, I can give you a short introduce to that. The device himself can be clean with a swipe disinfection. When you have a reusable patient host system, that can be also put in a disinfection container and the sterilization container. Single-use ventilation circuits is, as the name said, not hygienical upgrade. And when you change the hygienic filter, we told you to swipe also the areas around the hygienic filter with a swipe. So why? Oh, that's a good question. Why there are only 2 tubes connected to the disposable patient circuit adapter while 3 tubes on the reusable? That's a perfect question. We have the PEEP hose that we have on the reusable patient circuits. There it's go directly into the device. At the single-use patient circuit, we have, I can get on the screen, take me a moment, and I can show you right here. So as you can see here, we have a third hose, but it's a very short hose, is right here. It goes from the patient valve to the expiratory valve above here. And in the expiratory time, the MEDUVENT puts some pressure on this tube with the PEEP you set on the device, and so the PEEP can be set in the device. At the reusable device, we have these 3 hoses because the reusable breathing circuits can be hygienical, refresh, and there we have a little bit of confidence that these small hose here is in the same function before and after the hygienical reset. So that's the reason why we have 3 hoses at a reusable breathing circuit which get into the device, and only 2 hoses in the disposable breathing circuit. Is there automatic alarm limits? Yeah, you can set automatic alarm limits. At the moment, we have only 1 alarm, that's a frequency, which can be set. But for this alarm, you can set automatic alarm limits. Is it possible to connect the device to central gas system through the direct probe in the wall? Yes, you can put it right there, but you have to has a flow meter or oxygen click or something like this in the gas system. It's not a high pressure delivering hose, it's a low pressure delivering hose, so you need a flow meter or oxygen click or something like that. How to incorporate RSI with the MEDUVENT? That's mainly with the manual mode. So you can breathe the patient with the manual mode and then change into the IPPV or PFRZ on the device. Same question above. Yes, we can proceed RSI with the MEDUVENT, not as a single mode, but we can proceed RSI with the MEDUVENT. The CO2 option is not an option of the MEDUVENT. As Samir said, we have, he answered this also on the screen. So as Samir said, we have some new options in the time coming. So we have to see if this would be one option. Good. If there is no any questions, I hope that you have enough information about the MEDUVENT standard. I wish you all the best, stay healthy. And if you have any further questions, please contact your regional sales manager or Marcus or me directly. The best way is the direct way. So thank you very much. Have a good time.